Kia ora team, I'm Benny. Welcome to another episode of Grow with Bennies, where today we're going to be talking about companion planting, which is another of the 5 key components of the Oasis system that we use here at Bennies. We'll be looking at different forms of companion planting and talking about the ones that we do and do not choose to employ here as part of our system. Now, it's appropriate that we'll be talking about companion planting today, because stay tuned after the show, where one of the greatest companions you could ever hope for will bring us the final episode of Regrowth with Adam Mensch. But for now, we've got the Care Bears here with us as special guests, so let's hit the intro, get after it, and talk about companion planting here on this episode of Grow with Bennies.
Save your pennies, grow with Bennies.
Now, there are many different forms of companion planting and many different benefits that finding the right companions can bring into your system. If you've got limited space, something which is known as the 3 sisters can be utilised. Now, this is essentially where you grow corn, pumpkin, and something like beans in the same plot. The corn grows tall, the pumpkin grows along the ground, and the beans grow up the corn. It can be used, companion planting can be used to attract pollinators and beneficial insects into your system. It can be used to improve the quality or taste of your produce. A good example of this is growing tomatoes and basil together. Companion planting can be used to confuse or repel pests. It can be used to improve soil or add nutrient. In the case of, maybe you might be growing some brassicas that are heavy nitrogen feeders, so grow some lupins amongst them to fix the nitrogen into the soil. One thing to remember with this is that lupins don't interact with the mycorrhizal fungi in the actual soil, which is another great companion. So a good solution to this is to plant mustard amongst your lupins to interact with that mycorrhizal fungi. Now, one plant that actually can provide multiple benefits into your system is Marigold, and it just happens to be this week's Plant of the Week.
It's time for Plant of the Week. It's time for Plant of the Week. So let's all take a peek at this week's Plant of the Week.
Now, the scientific name for Marigold, and I'm not making this up, is Tagetes erectus. The flower is said to evoke creativity, courage, and passion. And it's really useful as a companion in your garden because it protects against nematodes. It can attract bees, butterflies, and other beneficial insects. And the perfume from the flower is said to repel a lot of pests, including cabbage moth. I've got some marigold seedlings here that I'm just going to very carefully prick out. And as I do, I just want to tell a wee story. Some of my fondest memories of childhood are of Sunday lunchtimes at my nana and granddad's house. Granddad would literally pull the food from the garden, give it to my grandmother, and she'd cook it up for us to eat for lunch. My nana had marigolds growing along her driveway. So the scent of the marigold, that beautiful perfume smell, that always reminds me of childhood. And for that reason, and because it's called Tagetes erectus, that is why Marigold is this week's Plant of the Week. Now, we've talked about a lot of different methods today of companion planting and the benefits they can provide to your organic system. One of the forms that we choose not to adopt here at Bennies is something called sacrificial companion planting. The idea here is to plant a plant that will attract pests and sort of pull them away from your main crops, as they tend to go after these sacrificial companions. We choose not to use that here at Bennies, and that's a good example of the system itself, because it's not a random collection of organic methods. It's a very specifically combined go-to repertoire of organic methods. So as we kind of wind down here, I'm getting ready to make way for my good friend Adam Mensch. And I just want to say, mate, I will always love you. We'll catch you next time on Grow with Bennies.